Hello and welcome to Blendercation. The very first video, very first chapter, very first lesson is just going to be a very quick intro to the basics of 3D modeling and 3D space. This is for someone who has no 3D modeling background, so if you do SketchUp, Maya, 3ds Max, AutoCAD, or even if you just know how to draw very well, you could probably skip this video and move on to something a little more Blender oriented, a little more advanced, but either way it's still a good refresher. So we're gonna start with a few things. This is my startup file. Every time I create a new file, this is the screen I get. It's everything I find useful. I find it set up in a fairly useful way. We're actually going to change this around because I've been playing with it so that I can clean it up for some tutorials. Anyways, let's get started with some basics. So we're going to scroll in with the mouse wheel here, and I'll get more into Blender's keys and mouse wheel inputs in a later series because hotkeys and the mouse movements are everything in Blender. So we have here a box, a simple cube. It has 6 faces. A face, obviously, 1, 2, 3, and then on the other side, 1, 2, 3 makes 6. It has 12 triangles, so that's how the program calculates if you divided each face, which have four sides in half. That would make 12 triangles, so you could divide it any way, but either way it has 12 triangles in all. And a lot of video games and modeling programs will calculate the size and efficiency of an object in tris or triangles, obviously. We have 3 objects. We have the camera right here. That is where that shows you where you'll be rendering from, and you can change the view right now. That shows you what we'll be rendering. If we were to render an image right now, this is what would come out. So that's your camera. You have a light. It's just a basic spotlight right now. This lights up the area. Obviously it's on the right side of the cube, so the left side of the cube is dark. There's a shadow there. If I had a floor, which I don't, there would be another shadow from the cube, especially when we move on to the cycles render, which is new-ish. It's a lot more realistic and would create more realistic shadows, but either way you can tell that this is a cube. So let's go into edit mode to view a few more details about this object. So we have vertices, like I said, verts as they call them, so 4 on each face right now since it's just a simple cube, and 4 of them make up one face. So you can see here we have 4 verts, 4 vertices, 4 corners selected, which makes 4 edges, which makes one face. Easy. And just do that 6 times and you have yourself a cube. Easy enough. So again, verts in the corners, vertices, faces, and lines, which create the faces. And that is the basic of that's the basic idea of 3D space and 3D models. You can think of any shape as being created by 3 shapes. For example, if we cursor to center. Let's just create a cylinder, rotate it along Z, and then rotate it that way, and we'll scale it up in the Z direction. And then we'll add, now I know I'm going quick, but I'm just giving you an idea again of how shapes make up 3D objects. So don't be scared if I'm going a little fast here. I'm sure pros would say actually going quite slow. Alright, so imagine a tree, for example. Now, this isn't a tree, but this is the basics of a tree. You imagine all 3D shapes as made up of the basic shapes that Blender lets you make. Planes, which is just a flat square, as in a floor, a wall, for example, a cube. Pretty self-explanatory. That's just 6 planes together at 90-degree angles. A circle, which is, you can never have a true circle in computers, but for example, the base of our cone here has a circle on the bottom, and smaller circles and smaller circles and smaller circles all the way up to the top where it terminates. And our cylinder is also made up of a circle that's extruded up. Anyways, more basic shapes. UV sphere, which is a sphere. An icosphere, which is a sphere made of flat faces. A cylinder, which we use for the trunk. A cone, which we use for the tree. And a torus, which is just like a donut. The rest we'll get into later. Some are custom, some are, yeah, very complicated. Either way, as I was saying, all objects are made up of shapes. So a tree is made up of a trunk, which is our cylinder here, and the branches and leaves are made up in a cone shape. Now obviously it can get a lot more advanced than that. It is a lot more advanced than that. But if you wanted to make it simple, there's your tree. Now, if we go into edit mode on this cone, you'll notice that it's actually just made up of a bunch of vertices, verts. It's made up of a bunch of lines that connect to a single vertex at the top, and it has one face on the bottom, which is a circle, and it has these triangular faces that go all the way around that make up our cone. Basically, this is referred to as topology. The shapes that make up other shapes, I guess, essentially. The more topology, the better. The more accurate your shapes, the more you can work with them, the more you have to change and work with and edit and make to your likings. For example, a standard circle in Blender is made up of 32 vertices. In fact, I think this, no, this isn't 32, but if I made a circle, it makes 32 vertices as standard. And so yeah, that's the basic of 3D shapes and 3D space. The other thing I'm going to explain is the X, Y, and Z axes right here in the corner. I've got them enabled. I don't believe it's enabled by default, and if it is, it's very small. I've made it as big as Blender will allow me and as bright as Blender will allow me. But You need to get used to this very fast. The z-axis, obviously, you remember this from grade school, that's up and down. The y-axis, obviously, that's forward and back. And the x-axis is left and right, and they're color-coded. And these colors will not change. The z-axis is always blue, the y-axis is always yellow, and the x-axis is always red. The colors are useful because you'll usually be working at the center of your document, which, as you can see, has a red line, a green line, and it also, you can't see it right now, but it would have a blue line as well for the z-axis. So yeah, that's the basics. A few things to think about. It's just an intro. I'm going to be uploading a lot more intros and tutorials and just simple things to get you started in Blender and learn your way very fast. That's all for now. Thank you for listening to me, and we'll see you again at Blendercation.